Hi and welcome to bexbugoutsurvivior. Today we're going to look at a variety of bivvy bags for your sleeping bag. And I have a variety. I have some polythene emergency bivvies. We'll talk to you later if they're any good, if they're worth having in your pack. The Mylar reflective, the pros and the cons, the army issue bivvies, and there's a whole plethora of bivvy bags on the market, some ex-surplus, some for hiking. There's too many to mention. I have about half a dozen here to show you. This is the typical size of pack I would go for. It's a 30 litre patrol pack. No need for a Bergen for me, I just carry the sleeping bag on top. And the roll pad is secured on the front with a helmet carry. Just a couple of little QR clips and that's off there. Just for the convenience of filming this, I'm just using a jungle sleeping bag, or the lightweight bag from the British modular system. It's freed up all the room on the inside. So if I have my sleeping bag and my pad and my Gore-Tex bivvy on the outside, that leaves a total unused occupation space of 30 litres in the main body of the pack. All you're going to need is your food, some clothes, a means to cook and some sundries and a first aid kit. So this is as basic as I'm going to make it, but let's look at some of the actual bivvy bags. Let's start with the outside of the pack first. Let's see what we have here. These are the rescue bags. It's a polythene bag. Two colours, I can get them in green, rescue orange. I always carry a rescue orange, and if I want, I can have a green one as well. I'm not sure if I brought that with me. Yes, I have. So the green, a double orange and a single orange. The single goes in a tent stake bag, that kind of size. So if you've got tent pegs, tent pins, tent stakes, that will fit in there. Takes up no room at all. So this is what I would take with me on a day hike where I'm returning at night. So I have actually slept in one of these for months on end. There's a story behind it. I didn't have a home at the time, but I managed to get hold of myself, or even make myself some a bivvy bag of sorts, where I found some polythene bags just like this and taped them together. The weather wasn't inclement at all, it was quite temperate, and with my clothing on, one of these and a soft bedding underneath, I was fine for many months of my life in one of these. So I know for a fact these are brilliant wind blockers, and a lot of people are going to say, well, it's going to condensate on the inside. You just leave the top of it open. Don't be trying to get it around your shoulders. The great thing about these is if you take both colours in a single, the rescue orange and the green, then you can put one inside the other and you insulate with leaves. Let's have a look at the kind of size we've got. This is the single. I haven't folded it into a pouch, and I've had this a fair old time, and all it is, it looks like a garbage bag. It's quite tough. Time to renew some of this bit actually. The orange is a double, the big one, and also a single here that hasn't been used. And I don't know if you can see, this looks absolutely brand new. This is beginning to show signs of wear. feet into the wind. It's not designed to cover your head, just up to your shoulders. These come into their own if I just curl into a little ball. And all it is for is to keep off the worst of the weather, usually the wind. The rain as well, it is waterproof. I'll be fine in this if the head end is sheltered. But I've had 11 months nearly in one of these, and I'm alive to tell the story. This is what I would take on a day hike if I got trapped and a low cloud bank came in and I need to shelter in the dry and keep out the wind for a couple of hours. It's fine. Everything you need to know is written on the side, and I think one of these should be in most people's day pack, even though we hope we're not going to need it. If you're a hiker, I recommend getting the Rescue Orange, but they're not expensive. I would get 2, so that way you can stealth up and get rescue if it's required. They're not expensive at all. Okay, and the other side of my little pack, a different kind of bivvy. This one is metallic lined. Now this is the Sol Escape Bivvy Bag. These have been seen all over the internet. SOL, Survive Outdoors Longer. A simple little bivvy. This has a zip towards the top and a reflective inner. Now there's a couple of things to realise with this one. It's said to be breathable, this one. It's not overly breathable. The best way I've ever used this, rather than getting in it with my clothing, is actually put it around a sleeping bag in extremely cold temperatures, and it brings that sleeping bag temperature right up very, very quickly. But be prepared to take it off. I wouldn't sleep in it the whole night. Take it off once you're warm, because the amount of condensation inside the bag this can build up is immense. If you've got a good sleeping bag but you get in it when you're cold, this will heat that bag up. It generates a lot of heat even for a cold sleeper. I have had occasion where I've woken up with this still on and the inside of my sleeping bag has been quite wet, you know, with the sweat that this can generate. Lesson learned, once you're warm, take it off. So I was wet when I woke up, but I was very, very warm. It was a warm wet, and you have to ask yourself, do you want to wake up cold and near death, or just wet and warm? I'd choose wet and warm, but lesson learned, once you are warm, take this off your sleeping bag. Would I use this just in the clothing that I'm wearing? I've only got into this a couple of times from my clothing. It's not fully wind resistant, but on its own with the clothing it's a bit of a gimmick. I don't think it works well, but something like this, the metallic Sol Bivvy from Survive Outdoors Longer, I think is brilliant around a sleeping bag, but it'd have to be extreme cold to use that as a bivvy. Now I think we'll move on to the Army sleeping bags. Dutch Army bivvy, and I think this is by Fexka. The zips on this aren't brilliant. They do snag a lot of the zips. If I could afford better, I would get better. It's a very old one. It's one of my very first bivvies I ever had. This is a hoop bivvy. I can put a frame in here and take it off my face. We'll have a look at that in a minute. In here is the MTP Army bivvy, a lot lighter than the one we just seen, and they come in 2 sizes, so 2 different weights. For hiking or for wild camping, A simple olive drab will do me. I really do like olive drab. And hopefully I've got 2 of these, because like I said, 2 different sizes. So this is almost brand new, this one. This is the large, this is the small, and yes, I can feel the weight difference. So let's set up this Dutch Army, and I believe it's by Fexka. I have a sleeping bag by Fexka as well. I have a few actually, and the zips aren't brilliant, neither on the sleeping bag nor the bivvy. So it's not a DPM like the British Army camouflage, it's a woodland camouflage. Come into the head end here, it's zippered. Move up a bit, we come to some tie outs here, but first I'm going to thread the pole through the sleeve. The sleeve is here and it's quite tight. And it's secured into the grommet. It's going to take 6 tent stakes to put it out in its entirety. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I could do it in 4 then. So I'm not going to do the feet end, I'm just going to use 4. 2 at the very top, 2 by the shoulders, and often I don't bother with the feet anyway because I throw my pack down the bottom. It's 9 foot long, there's plenty of room in this. So you don't always need to bring the hoop if you tie string or cordage onto, say, a trekking pole or a branch and then tie off. So that's an option to lighten the load a little. If you want to lighten the load, if that's where you're going, I wouldn't use this bivvy. A 2-way zip, one over the hoop and one down the side here, and we can open it all out. On the back of this are pad straps which I cut off. I don't like them. I'd rather have the pad in with me, a little foam pad. The great thing about this is it's spacious. At one point this was my favourite little bivvy bag because it's all I could afford at the time. I couldn't afford the Corinthia versions of this, which I think are called the Observers. It's a hoop bivvy, is a lot more quality. They're about 300 quid. This second hand years ago was £91. It took me a lot of saving up at the time to get this, but it's all there, it's all intact, all works. I've never been wet. I've been very warm in this actually when it's all zipped up, because you're not breathing in the cold air unlike another bivvy, so you're breathing in warm air, and it's a big bonus. As where the army issue bivvies, British infantry, you're quite exposed breathing in the cold air. But of course if you turn it upside down you can alleviate that altogether. But this, not bad, not bad. I like it, I always have. Some people have a problem with it just because it's not the best quality it could be. But then again, like I said at the time, I couldn't afford anything else. So I couldn't afford the Corinthia at 300. I bought this at 91 quid. Excuse me. years ago, and I've used it a lot. Sometimes I use it in place of a tent, and on a nice night where it may rain but it's not predicted, I don't even bother with the basher. Sometimes I can just take a poncho and use it as a coat, so if I do have to sit up like I am now to do some admin, I can set up my poncho on a trekking pole in a half pyramid fashion. I can put that around the back here and sit and cook, get changed, do my ablutions. There's a solution to everything if you just think it through. But like I said, you incorporate the tarp with this, the basher, you're up to about 2.5 kilos, about the weight of a double skin tent. I'll leave them thoughts for you. So I never did get hold of a British DPM bivvy bag. They just haven't turned up. I'm sure they will, but I'm not going to go out of my way to find one. It's not that important to me. And there are two sizes, and I'm going to show you the sizings on a quick tip, I think. But one is about 600 grams, the other is about 800 grams. It's a lot bulkier. If you choose the smaller one or the regular, it's lighter and it compacts a lot better. I mean, I haven't compacted this particular one because I'm lazy like that, but this is all it needs to be for me. It takes up hardly any space. And I've heard some people argue about which way round a bivvy goes when you come to setting it up. So what do I mean by that? Some people would think of this as a tent. Therefore, you put your pad inside your bivvy bag, and then you put your sleeping bag on the pad. Everything goes inside here. There's another train of thought that this is a sleeping bag cover, and you can cover yourself up and put the bivvy on top of your ground pad. So two trains of thought. Now one school will argue over the other which is correct, and do you know which one's correct? The one that works for you. Try both ways. If one works out better for you than the other, that's your way, and you will not allow anyone to persuade you that one way is better than the other, especially on YouTube. YouTube is absolutely terrible for this I'm right attitude, and I always encourage everyone to try all methods, both methods. The method that is correct is the one that works for you. You're not a sheeple, you can decide for yourself. Personally, I've tried both, and there are moments where I put everything into here, winter usually, because I put my pad inside the sleeping bag as well. Very wide sleeping bag, but it means I'm kind of stuck on my back and I can't turn to my side because it's tight on the shoulder, but it's doable. Maybe for a little more comfort, just put your sleeping bag straight into the bivvy and use it like a sleeping bag cover. And the sleeping bag cover works for me too. I've tried both ways. It really does, for me, depend on the temperature and how I use it and how damp the ground is. So the first thing we're going to do is use it like a sleeping bag cover. So just shove everything in any old how, willy-nilly. By the time I grab the two hoods and give it a shake, autumn, spring, summer, winter, you'll always find somewhere for olive drab to fit in. The British Army Gore-Tex bivvies are generally about 7 foot long with the mat underneath. And sure, I can put an air pad combined with this, and if you want your silver reflector, but I would sooner use a reflector in this situation as an isolator rather than a radiant barrier, because it doesn't work unless there's an air gap, and I haven't got one with this kind of setup. So this is setup 1. You're either going to prefer this or the next method I'm going to show you, but this is method 1. Use this like a sleeping bag cover, and on the side where your ear would be is this here, which is your toddle for tightening up the aperture of the chest and your hood. On the modern bivvies, you've got the toddle here right at the front, so I really do need to improve my sewing skills on the sewing machine. That's why I'm going to put a 3/4 zip in here, just because this toddle is on the side. I have another bivvy where the toddle is on the front, and again I'm going to put a full length zip in on one of my bivvies, right down the centre this time rather than on the edge, and the one in the centre will be for the hammock. And that olive is the large. I'm not sure if it's longer, I certainly know it's wider. Okay, they're both the same length. I had it in my mind it might have been longer, but it's not, it's wider. Now the other part of the system we can do is to take the sleeping bag out and put the roll mat in first. So which is correct? Like I said before, there's no correct method. The correct method is what works for you. So I have it orientated this way, where the hood is. Here's the pad. It'll roll towards the foot end when I give this a kick. So the colours I know are available are woodland, DPM, olive drab, MTP, and these are military issue standards. There are hiking companies out there who'll do versions of bivvy bags, and I couldn't tell you if they're good or not because I've never had one. I'm more than happy with what I can pick up from surplus. So let's go over and have a look at the last one, the MTP. The only real difference, of course, is the colour and the age. MTP will be newer. It's a newer camo pattern. So whether you have a preference really for a pattern or a colour, I think is irrelevant. You choose what is applicable to its environment. The olive drab I can get away with in any environment. Probably not a desert, obviously. I would want this. But as I'm here in the UK, I can get away with the olive. The woodland is great all year round, really. But this colour here is great when the leaves are falling in autumn. It really does blend in a lot better in the UK environment in autumn. The olive, like I said, all year round for me. 2 olives, 2 different sizes. The woodland, not to be confused with DPM, and the MTP. Whatever you choose, going to keep you warm and dry. So this has been the showdown of the bivvies that I have. There's also showdowns of the sleeping bags I have, the foam pads, the air pads, the tarps. There's showdowns of a lot of different kit. If you want to know the differences between each and find out what may be more suitable for you and the role you have towards your kit. For me, it's just a bit of stealthy wild camping. The olive does me just fine. So until next time, take care of yourself and I'll see you out there. Happy trails.